In the heart of the ocean, far from any coastline, drifts a city unlike any other, forged not from concrete or glass, but from armor, cables, and roaring steel. She stretches over 1,000 feet long, a floating airbase heavier than 10,000 city buses, powered not by diesel or wind, but by a nuclear core that can run for decades without refueling. Her name is simple: USS Nimitz, USS Gerald R. Ford, USS Theodore Roosevelt. Yet her presence feels alive. For the 5,000 sailors who call her home, the carrier is both fortress and prison. She never sleeps. Every hour, every minute, every second, someone is awake, watching radar, steering, launching jets, cleaning decks, cooking meals, maintaining reactors. It's a never-ending ballet of precision, power, and exhaustion. When a carrier departs port, it's not just a ship leaving harbor, it's a small American city vanishing into the horizon. It has its own zip code, its own hospital, police force, fire department, water plant, and even television channel. Once at sea, the crew becomes its heartbeat. Below decks, sailors live stacked in triple bunks, barely 18 inches apart. The air hums with the vibration of turbines. Pipes rattle overhead. Somewhere deep within, a jet engine roars as mechanics test it for the next mission. Sleep becomes an art. You rest not because you're tired, but because you must. On the upper decks, flight operations define life's rhythm. The pounding of boots, the shriek of arresting cables, the thunder of jet engines echo through the steel hull day and night. Every sailor, from cooks to electricians, feels the tremor of takeoffs in their bones. And yet, amid the chaos, there's a strange beauty. The way the ocean glows under moonlight. The teamwork that turns thousands of strangers into one functioning organism. The quiet pride that comes from knowing you're part of something enormous, invisible, and vital. Out here in the endless blue, there are no streets, no neighbors, no normal days, only the vast sea and the hum of a city of steel that carries the weight of American power on its back. For the men and women aboard, this is life, and it's only just beginning. Below the roaring chaos of the flight deck lies a different world, one most people will never see. It's a maze of narrow corridors, steel ladders, and compartments stacked 7 decks deep. The air feels heavy, recycled, humming with electricity. Everywhere you turn, pipes twist across ceilings and bulkheads like the veins of a living creature. Here, daylight doesn't exist. The only glow comes from fluorescent lights buzzing above rows of bunks and machinery. Sailors joke that you lose track of time after the first week. There's no sunrise, no sunset, just watches and work shifts. Down here, your body learns to live by alarms and intercom calls. Sleeping quarters are small enough to make claustrophobes sweat. Each sailor gets a coffin-sized bunk, 3 tiers high, stacked against the wall like drawers in a cabinet. You crawl in sideways, pull a thin curtain, and that's your home. Inside, a pillow, a blanket, and a tiny compartment for personal items, photos, letters, maybe a paperback novel if there's room. The sound never stops. Even at night, you hear the constant thrum of engines, the faint whine of pumps, the distant crash of aircraft landing above. Somewhere, a ventilation fan groans endlessly. And yet, somehow, sailors learn to sleep through it. Exhaustion does that. The passageways are so tight that 2 people can barely pass without brushing shoulders. It's a world of "excuse me," "coming through," and "watch your head." Every door is watertight, every compartment numbered and labeled. If you get lost, and many do, the only way out is to follow the painted arrows toward the nearest hatch. But there's also laughter here. Music leaks from someone's headphones. A group of mechanics cracks jokes over instant ramen during a midnight break. Down in this steel labyrinth, you cling to small comforts. Coffee from the galley, a letter from home, a few quiet minutes before the next watch. To live below deck is to understand the heartbeat of the carrier. It's loud, cramped, relentless, but it's also alive. Every sound, every face, every drop of sweat keeps this city moving. And for those who serve here, this steel maze isn't just a workplace, it's a home floating on the edge of the world. Feeding 5,000 people on land is hard. Feeding 5,000 people on a moving, pitching steel island in the middle of the ocean, that's a miracle of planning, precision, and pure endurance. Every day aboard an aircraft carrier, the galley crew prepares more than 15,000 meals. Breakfast starts before dawn, and the smell of bacon and powdered eggs fills the narrow corridors long before the sun rises over the deck. The cooks, called culinary specialists, work in shifts that never truly end, slicing, stirring, cleaning, and resetting for the next wave of hungry sailors. The carrier's galley is the size of a small warehouse, filled with roaring ovens, clanging trays, and stainless steel counters that never cool. Steam rolls across the ceiling. You can hear the laughter and shouting of tired men and women working shoulder to shoulder, turning crates of ingredients into fuel for the entire ship. Every few weeks, massive supply ships pull alongside in what's known as a replenishment at sea. Dozens of sailors form human chains as helicopters and cables transfer pallets of food, water, and supplies across the waves. It's a dangerous ballet. The ships move in perfect synchronization, just 150 feet apart, while tons of cargo swing above the ocean's surface. One mistake could mean disaster. The menu is simple but hearty: spaghetti, chicken, potatoes, and endless coffee. On special occasions, holidays, birthdays, or the end of deployment, the cooks get creative. They'll bake cakes, carve ice sculptures, or serve steak just to remind everyone what home tastes like. Most meals are eaten in the mess decks, long metal tables lined shoulder to shoulder. Conversation is loud and fast. Everyone eats quickly before rushing back to their post. There's no room for lingering, not when thousands more are waiting for the next shift to sit down. But the galley isn't just about food. It's about normalcy, a place where, even for 15 minutes, life feels human again. A hot meal and a laugh with friends can mean the difference between exhaustion and morale. In a world surrounded by salt water and isolation, a plate of eggs or a cup of coffee isn't just breakfast. It's a reminder that you're still alive, still part of something, still connected to home. The flight deck of a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier isn't just a runway. It's 4.5 acres of controlled chaos, a place where every second counts and every mistake could cost lives. From the bridge above, it looks like a living machine. Jets roar, propellers spin, and sailors, each in color-coded uniforms, move like gears in a precise, deadly clockwork. Yellow shirts direct aircraft, purple shirts refuel them, green shirts maintain the catapults and arresting wires, red shirts handle ordnance, bombs, missiles, and ammunition. The temperature on deck can reach 130 degrees, amplified by jet exhaust and the blistering sun. The noise is deafening, engines screaming, catapults hissing, and the ocean wind howling across steel. Communication happens through hand signals, nods, and instinct. You don't hear orders here, you feel them. Each launch begins with a ritual. The aircraft, trembling with power, is connected to a steam catapult capable of accelerating a 30-ton jet from 0 to 170 miles per hour in just 2 seconds. The shooter crouches low, points dramatically toward the sky, and the jet explodes forward, vanishing off the bow in a streak of heat and thunder. The danger never stops. One misstep near a jet intake can pull a man off his feet. A loose chain or dropped tool can become a deadly projectile. Even after years of experience, every sailor knows the flight deck demands respect, or it takes it by force. During night operations, the danger doubles. The deck is illuminated only by the faint glow of red and blue lights. Sailors move through darkness, guided by memory and instinct.
Jets return home like fiery comets, catching arresting wires that stretch and scream under tension, jerking each aircraft to a halt in seconds. To stand on that deck is to stand in the heart of a storm, fire, wind, and sound all around you. Yet amid the chaos, there's beauty. The teamwork, precision, and courage turn the madness into a symphony of discipline. And when the last jet lands and the night falls quiet, the crew finally exhales. They've survived another day on the most dangerous 4 acres in the world, and tomorrow they'll do it all again.
Below the thunder of the flight deck lies another world, a labyrinth of steel corridors, humming machinery, and the constant vibration of engines pushing 100,000 tons of warship through the sea. For most of the 5,000 sailors aboard, this is home. There are no windows here. The fluorescent lights stay on day and night, and time itself begins to blur. You could walk for half an hour through the carrier's guts, past workshops, berthing compartments, and mess halls, and still feel like you're in the same place. Every hallway looks the same. Every hatch clanks the same way. The ship feels infinite, and yet, somehow, claustrophobic. A sailor's day isn't measured in hours, but in watches. Most work 12 to 18 hours daily, rotating between shifts, drills, and maintenance. Sleep comes in broken fragments, 4 hours here, 2 hours there, on a narrow rack stacked 3 high in a room shared with dozens of others. Privacy doesn't exist. You learn to change clothes with your back turned, to tune out snoring, and to fall asleep to the sound of metal creaking and pipes hissing overhead. Meals happen fast. In the mess deck, hundreds line up for powdered eggs, coffee strong enough to wake the dead, and the occasional treat, steak or ice cream after a successful mission. For many, that's the highlight of the day. The galley never stops. It runs 24/7, feeding the ship in shifts like a giant steel city that never sleeps. The air is thick, warm, oily, and metallic. The constant hum of machinery becomes background music to life aboard. Down here, you forget the rhythm of the outside world. You don't see the sunrise or sunset. You don't know if it's raining or calm. The only reality is the carrier, the mission, and the men and women around you. And yet, through fatigue and monotony, there's pride. Every sailor below deck knows they are the backbone of the operation. They keep the lights on, the engines running, and the jets flying. The pilots may get the glory, but without these unseen hands, the carrier is just a floating hulk. It's a life of sacrifice and endurance, a world where the clock never stops, and neither can they. It's 2:43 in the morning. The ship is silent, except for the hum of the engines and the faint rattle of the waves against the hull. Hundreds of sailors lie half asleep in their racks when, suddenly, a blaring horn shatters the calm. "General quarters! General quarters! All hands man your battle stations!" Within seconds, the carrier transforms from dormitory to war machine. Lights flicker on, boots hit the floor, doors slam open as sailors sprint through narrow passageways, ducking under pipes and leaping over hatch combings. There's no hesitation, no confusion. Every movement is muscle memory. These drills can happen at any hour, dawn, noon, or midnight, because the ocean never promises peace. Fire, flooding, or missile attack, every scenario must be second nature. The crew trains relentlessly for the worst day imaginable, hoping it never comes. Down in the engineering spaces, sailors race to secure valves and check systems. On the flight deck, damage control teams don fireproof suits and practice extinguishing imaginary flames. In the Combat Information Center, a dim, glowing room filled with radar screens, operators simulate incoming aircraft and hostile contacts. Even though everyone knows it's a drill, adrenaline surges through the ship. The vibrations feel different when the engines shift to high readiness, when the decks echo with coordinated chaos. Then comes the hardest part, the silence after the alarm stops. Breathing slows, hearts pound, and sweat runs down faces lit by red emergency lights. The voice over the intercom finally announces, "Secure from general quarters." Relief mixes with exhaustion. The sailors return to their racks, but sleep won't come easily now. Every drill leaves a mark. The new recruits, still adjusting to the ship's rhythm, learn just how fragile life at sea can be. Veterans move with calm precision. They've done this 100 times, and they know why it matters. Because in the real world, there's no rehearsal. If a fire breaks out on the hangar deck or a missile streaks toward the carrier, they'll have seconds, not minutes, to react. And it's the memory of these midnight drills that keeps them alive. For the crew of a U.S. aircraft carrier, readiness isn't a routine, it's survival. Out here, thousands of miles from home, surrounded by nothing but rolling waves and endless horizon, isolation becomes more than a feeling, it's a fact of life. Days blur together, time zones vanish, and for many sailors, the world beyond the ship starts to fade away. But then, one small event can change everything. Mail call. When a supply plane lands on deck carrying letters and packages from home, the announcement echoes through the ship like a spark of joy. Mail call! Mail call! The mess deck fills with sailors clutching envelopes, scanning the crowd for their names. For some, it's a letter from a spouse or a parent, creased from travel, maybe smudged with tears. For others, it's a care package filled with snacks, photos, or the faint scent of perfume that cuts through the sterile smell of steel and salt. In those moments, the noise of the ship fades. You can almost hear laughter, smell home-cooked meals, and remember what silence feels like. But not everyone gets mail. Some stand quietly in the back, pretending not to care, hiding the sting of being forgotten. Out here, isolation can feel sharper than any battle. There's no cell service, no quick calls, and internet connections are limited to short, delayed messages. You live with the knowledge that while the world moves on, birthdays, holidays, family milestones, you're still sailing the same blue sea. Sailors cope in their own ways. Some write letters they'll never send, others stare at photos taped above their racks. Many turn to each other, forming tight bonds that become a second family. In a place where privacy doesn't exist and the sea never stops, friendship becomes survival. At night, some step onto the weather deck, looking out at the moonlit waves. The stars stretch endlessly above, clearer than anywhere on land. It's beautiful, but also haunting. The same stars their loved ones see back home, yet separated by oceans and months of waiting. Mail call is more than a delivery. It's a reminder that someone still remembers, still cares, still waits. And for a sailor adrift in the vast Pacific, that's enough to keep going. One wave, one day, one letter at a time. No matter how advanced, no matter how mighty, no ship can command the sea. When storm season arrives, even a 100,000-ton aircraft carrier feels small. It starts subtly. The sky bruises gray, the wind sharpens, and the sea begins to twist with uneasy energy. Then, within hours, waves the size of buildings crash against the hull. The flight deck vanishes under walls of water as the ship crests and dives through swells that would swallow smaller vessels whole. The ocean roars like an angry beast, and every sailor aboard feels its power. Inside, the world tilts and groans. Bulkheads creak, loose equipment rattles, and sailors sway as they walk, learning to time each step with the roll of the ship. Meals become a balancing act, trays sliding, coffee sloshing, and laughter breaking through the tension. For new sailors, seasickness hits hard. Even veterans grip the walls when the carrier lurches 40 feet up, then crashes down with a shudder that echoes through the decks. Above deck, the storm transforms the ship into a fortress under siege. Jets are chained down, doors are sealed, and watchstanders stand drenched in spray, faces stung by salt and wind.
Communication with other ships in the fleet becomes erratic. Sometimes they vanish behind curtains of rain so thick you can't see 50 feet ahead. And yet, amid the chaos, there's beauty. Lightning forks across the horizon, illuminating the massive ship as it battles the storm. The ocean glows faintly with bioluminescent plankton, lighting each crashing wave like nature's own fireworks. In the control room, officers monitor the storm's path, making tiny course corrections to ride with the waves, not against them. Every decision matters. A wrong angle could mean damage to aircraft, crew, or even the ship itself. But through it all, discipline holds. The crew moves with calm precision, securing equipment, checking watertight doors, supporting each other through sleepless nights. They know that storms end, even if it feels like they never will. And when the dawn finally breaks and the seas calm to glass, the carrier stands unbroken, paint-streaked, deck-soaked, but spirit intact. The sailors gather on deck, staring out at the horizon, knowing they've stared down the ocean's fury and survived. Out here, every storm is a reminder. Man may rule the machine, but the sea rules all.
On an aircraft carrier, nothing is more feared than fire. It spreads faster than thought, feeds on jet fuel, ammunition, and oxygen. And in seconds, it can turn the Navy's most powerful warship into a floating inferno. It's a lesson written in blood. The sailors of every modern carrier still study what happened aboard the USS Forrestal in 1967, when a single rocket misfire set off a chain reaction that killed 134 men and nearly destroyed the ship. That memory lives in every crew member's mind, a constant reminder that vigilance never ends. It starts with a spark. Maybe a hot engine ignites spilled fuel, or an electrical line arcs beneath the deck. Alarms blare, fire, fire, fire on the flight deck, and within seconds, the entire ship is alive. Sailors sprint through the smoke, grabbing extinguishers, hoses, and foam nozzles. There's no panic, no shouting, just pure training taking over. Red-shirted ordnance handlers race to secure live bombs before they cook off. Green shirts shut down catapults and secure the jets. Damage control teams, clad in silver heat suits, charge into the flames armed with AFF, a thick foam that smothers fuel fires. On deck, the heat is blinding. The air tastes of metal and smoke. Wind whips the fire sideways, spraying burning fuel across the deck like liquid fire. Every second feels like an hour. Commanders shout through radios, coordinating firefighting crews across different decks, ensuring no compartment is left unattended. Below, medical teams prepare stretchers and oxygen masks. The ship's air systems are sealed to prevent smoke from choking compartments deep inside. And yet, amid the chaos, there's courage. Sailors risk everything for each other. Many times, men dive toward danger to save a trapped crewmate or stop a spreading blaze. They know that on a carrier, if one part burns, all could be lost. Then, slowly, the tide turns. The foam starts to smother the flames. Smoke thickens, then thins. The wind cools. What's left behind is a charred deck, melted steel, and exhausted sailors. Some with singed faces, some silent from shock, but all alive. After every fire, the crew gathers for debriefs. Lessons are learned. Procedures are refined. The scars remain, both on the deck and in their memories. Because on an aircraft carrier, the enemy isn't always out there beyond the horizon. Sometimes it's the spark under your own feet. After months at sea, after endless days of flight ops, drills, storms, and sleepless nights, there comes a moment every sailor dreams of: homecoming. It begins quietly. The word spreads through the ship in whispers. We're heading in. The navigator plots the course toward the coastline, and for the first time in months, the crew feels the hum of anticipation instead of stress. The air feels lighter. Conversations sound different. Even the ocean seems calmer, as if it knows the journey is almost over. Below deck, sailors scrub every inch of the ship until the metal shines.
Rust is sanded, paint is touched up, compartments are clean, spotless. Inspections will come later, but right now it's about pride, about bringing the carrier home looking as sharp as the day it left. Above, the flight deck quiets. Jets are tied down and secured, tools packed, and ordnance safely stowed. The frantic pace that once ruled every hour slows to something almost peaceful. For the first time in a long while, there's time to breathe. Then someone spots it. A thin gray line on the horizon. Land. And just like that, 5,000 hearts skip at once. As the ship draws closer, phone signals return. The mess deck erupts with cheers as sailors message family for the first time in weeks without delay. Photos are exchanged, tears are shed. Some stand alone, staring out at the shore, thinking about who will be waiting and who won't. On the flight deck, dress uniforms replace work coveralls. The carrier slows, escorted by smaller ships and helicopters, while families gather on the pier below, waving flags, holding signs, searching the decks through binoculars. The loudspeakers echo, "Now hear this, prepare to moor ship." Ropes are thrown, anchor set, and the massive hull kisses the pier. The gangway drops, and in that instant, all the months of exhaustion, danger, and loneliness vanish. Sailors rush forward, greeted by tears, laughter, and the smell of earth and grass after so long at sea. For some, it's their first homecoming. For others, it might be their last. But every one of them knows what it means to serve, to sacrifice, to endure the endless horizon, and finally, to come home. Because aboard an aircraft carrier, the mission never really ends, but for a moment, the sea lets them go.